I cannot enter. Whitechapel. This neighborhood is linked somehow to the kind Lady Ashbury's blackmail. First, let's find this Petrescu fellow.
Fuck you all! Fuck it all! Stop it now, Albert, stop it! Wet Boots will be proud of me.
Are you all right?
The bastard hit the wall next to me. I don't even know if he meant to miss.
If you've been hurt, I can help you. I'm a doctor.
Name's Albert. Remember it. Now bugger off.
What happened? Did you really steal that man's medication?
Hey, I didn't do anything. It ain't me.
All right. Perhaps the poor drunk just confused you with someone else.
Sod off, mister. You ain't got no clue what's going on here. Bastard was a soldier in the war, so now he's got the right to shoot me.
It's true. I'm not familiar with this part of town. Perhaps you could help me.
I said sod off. Go find yourself another guide.
Do you know Nurse Dorothy Crane from the Pembroke Hospital? If you know anything about her, I'd appreciate it.
Never heard of her. She's pretty, I'll keep an eye out.
Goodbye, young man.
I won't end up another drunk arsehole littering the streets. Not me.
Bloody heart, boy. What?
Shooting a boy in the middle of a street. Not the best thing to do, wouldn't you say?
What? You saw what happened? Who are you?
I'm Dr. Reed, and I'd like to ask you a few questions, if you promise me to set your gun aside.
No. Look, I'm not a violent man. I'm Benjamin Palmer, doctor. And no one can help me. Not even you.
Perhaps you could focus for a moment and tell me your troubles.
I'm sick, broke, and my son just stole my pills. Everything's coming up roses.
What can you tell me about this place?
Nothing to say, really. This is where I used to live, and this is where I live now.
You don't have anywhere to go? No family that would welcome you?
Not since the death of my wife, Albert's mother. She was sick, you see. Long before the flu and all this shit.
You mean you used to have a better life?
Yeah, I had a wife, a home, and a job. I even used to have a name. Now I'm just Ben. Ben the Tramp.
Do you know Nurse Dorothy Crane from the Pembroke Hospital? Have you heard anything?
It's funny, I've been searching for her too. I need some pills. But the woman is a phantom, if you ask me.
Really? And why is that?
Word is she ain't real. She's a cover for some doctor who runs an illegal dispensary for migrants.
Whatever the boy did, I'm sure he didn't deserve a public execution.
I swear I didn't want to hit him. It's just that I'm sick in the head, you see, and the boy just faked me last nerve.
What is it, Benjamin? It was the war, wasn't it? Your nerves are shot, aren't they? I need some answers, Private. From one soldier to another.
The doctors called me a liar, a coward. Put me in a straitjacket, locked me up. Finally, they sent me back to the front lines with a handful of tablets.
It's a pity that doctors still practice such barbaric methods. It's a dishonor to our profession.
Now only the pills stop me thinking about this shit. To not hear the explosions. I'm even scared of the dark these days.
A gun, alcohol, and a bad temper make a terrible cocktail, sir. Goodbye for now.
Not me.
How are you, boy?
I'm not your boy, all right? Now piss off.
Goodbye, young man.
Me? I'll not die in some piss-stinking alley reeking worse than a week-old lavvy. I won't end up another drunk arsehole littering the streets. Not me.
When science fails you, this elixir will give you faith again.
It's all a bloody joke to you, isn't it? Stealing drugs from the sick and suffering.
Its effectiveness has been proven by
Good
many.
evening, Benjamin.
Even
Can I help you?
I'm afraid not, Mr. Reed.
A gun, alcohol, and a bad temper make a terrible cocktail, sir. Goodbye for now.
as long as you have the money. When science fails you, this elixir will give you faith again.
Good evening, miss.
Good evening, sir. Are you interested in a miraculous cure for this unknown and deadly epidemic?
Actually, I am.
Then you have come to the right place. The famous Swanborough cordial is all you need to help keep you in perfect health.
Oh, really? Why didn't I hear about it during my studies? I'm Jonathan Reed, by the way. Dr. Jonathan Reed.
Ah, my brother has spoken of your research, sir. I'm Loretta Swanborough, and it's always a pleasure to meet a fellow healer.
Tell me, who intrigues you most in Whitechapel?
The region itself is something to see, but I would say Camellia the mute florist who gives away her flowers.
Is there anyone I should avoid?
Cadogan Bates, without a doubt. The bloody bastard remorselessly exploits poor migrants as soon as they get here.
What do you think of the locals?
Most of them are afraid or desperate. They all come to me eventually for my remedy.
Do you know Nurse Dorothy Crane from the Pembroke Hospital? I'd like to know more about her.
I don't like to talk about competition.
Competition, you say?
Never met her, but it seems she provides some sort of medical care to the poor. The whole thing has to be some sort of scam, if you ask me.
I'd like to see what kind of medicine you're selling.
Good evening, my dear colleague.
Goodbye, Miss Swanborough. Perhaps we'll talk again.
Gangs are ruining this neighborhood, if you ask me.
It's locked.
don't have your money.
Come on, Barrett, you know the game. You pay for piece of money.
Can't you just look the other way this week, Joe? Come on, we can sort it out, right?
It's not my call, Barrett. You pay one way or another.
Please, Joe. How long have we known each other? We even used to be neighbours, for Christ's sake.
I'd prefer not to give you another beating, Barrett.
Excuse me, sir. I have a few questions for you.
Another journalist? I didn't answer the first one, so piss off!
I'm not a journalist, I'm a doctor.
A doctor, you say? It's quite a rare breed in this part of town.
Really? But still, here I am. Dr. Jonathan Reed, at your service.
I'm Joe Peterson to some, but Colossus Joe to most. And I don't remember asking for your service, sir.
May I ask what you do around here?
I do whatever I want, and sometimes even more. Now sod off.
According to you, physicians are scarce in this part of town. Why is that?
Not familiar with this neighborhood, are you? I guess your fancy colleagues are too afraid of being stabbed in the back.
This part of town does have quite a reputation. Would you say it's justified?
Totally. Look at me, for instance. I always look my opponent in the eye before knocking him out.
Have you heard of a nurse named Dorothy Crane? She's a colleague of mine, and is supposed to live around here.
Dorothy Crane? Yeah, I know her. One of the few good souls who dare to help the sick around here.
Could you please tell me more about her?
She's a nice girl. Tries to help the migrants. I offered to give her a hand, but she said my reputation would attract too much attention.
Goodbye, Mr. Peterson.
I should never have taken up my father's business. Welcome, sir. Please, take a browse of my wares.
I am Dr. Reed. I would like to ask you a few questions, if you don't mind.
Doctor? Interesting. I'm Barrett Lewis. Usually I don't have time to waste with talk, but at this hour of the night I can hardly refuse.
How is business around here?
Business? I have no business. Between this racket, theft, and customers getting scared, I'm losing money every day.
I see. Sounds like you blame someone in particular for your situation.
It's no secret Joe Peterson spends his time harassing merchants. But with me, he's trying to put me out of business once and for all.
As a merchant, you see Whitechapel every day. Have you noticed anything out of the ordinary recently?
Well, you mean besides the epidemic, the war, and all the usual crap? As long as I can remember, this part of town has been a bottomless pit, and no sign of the bottom yet.
Have you been hurt?
No, but that's only because I ran like hell. Those men were raving lunatics, I tell you. Not even able to speak anymore, just screaming.
Violence is increasing in the borough.
Yeah. A few nights ago, some blokes jumped me. Came out of one of the condemned workshops. Fever, madness, something like that.
Where did this happen? Why did you go there?
In the closed workshops nearby. I worked there as an apprentice in better days. Now I only go to find trinkets or tools. Too bad I was mugged, though. There was good money in that little box of loot I lost.
Have you heard of a nurse called Dorothy Crane?
Nurse Crane? So the bitch really is a nurse, then? Always thought she was just some crafty foreigner, that one.
So she's trying to help her fellow immigrants. Why would that make her a villain?
Dorothy Crane ain't even a real name. Something like Dorothea Craniu. Something like that. Came to England fleeing the war, I was told.
That doesn't explain why she irritates you so much.
Your precious Nurse Crane gives away medical supplies and prescriptions for free. I offered to sell it for a fair cut, but no. Miss Crane wanted to play the quiet saint.
Right then. Show me what you have.
Fancy buying something, sir?
You never lose your focus, do you? Goodbye for now, Mr. Lewis.
I know it's hard to believe, but this district has always been wretched. Don't let your guard down, sir.
You again? What do you want this time?
How did you become the local bully everyone is afraid of, Joe?
There's no pride in roughing up poor bastards. But this is the only job I've found. And it pays well, too.
A job? So you're racketeering for someone else?
I got enlisted by the Wet Boot Boys, a gang from the docks. I'm their muscle for their dirty work.
Most people don't become thugs when unemployed. This is a choice you made.
I don't care what you think, sir. I do what I have to do for my own reasons, and that's that.
I'm not sure Mr. Lewis would agree with your by all means necessary philosophy, sir.
Oh, do you really think he's the poor victim here? Barrett can be as sneaky as anyone. Long ago, I even called the bastard my best friend.
Goodbye, Mr. Peterson.
Fancy buying something, sir?
You never lose your focus, do you? Joe Peterson. He's the villain here, isn't he? But you seem to know each other.
I'd known Joe for years. I saw him box once or twice. He was a friend then. But these days, he's just another thug.
What can you tell me about Mr. Peterson? Besides his behavior toward you, obviously.
Colossus Joe was a decent boxer, good one even. But after his wife passed away, he found every excuse to stop training. Just wanted to pick fights with everyone.
Without making excuses for him, it's safe to say that despair can poison even the sanest mind.
We've all had some rough times, ain't we? But most of us don't use our fists to see us through.
And no one has ever stood up to this thug.
Nobody would be fool enough to stand against a wet boot boy.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Lewis.
Cheap price, good quality. Come on, take a look. Don't be afraid. Cheap price, good quality. Come on, take a look. Don't be afraid.
You look so pale, my lord. Would you like me to revive you? Don't be shy, handsome. What can Christina do for you?
I'm not looking for what you're selling. But I'd like to ask you a few questions, if I may. I'm a doctor. Dr. Reed.
All right then, but be quick, though I usually get paid when I open my mouth.
Christina, have you been examined? The epidemic is spreading fast in London, and you could be exposed. Or expose others.
I don't like doctors or hospitals, but I don't like you asking questions.
Considering your line of work, I assure you it is only a matter of time before you have health issues.
If it is going to happen, it will happen. Right now, I need money. That's what's important.
You can put your own life in danger, that's your decision. But what about your clients? If you're contaminated, you will put them in danger too.
And you think that would worry me? If you knew the men I deal with, their health would not be what you'd worry about.
Do you know Nurse Dorothy Crane from the Pembroke Hospital? Anything you can tell me about her would be helpful.
I don't know her, but I know her name is Dorothea Crăciunescu. She came from Romania like me and many others.
You seem to respect her.
Dorothea helps the sick people of Whitechapel. Everyone should respect that.
Tell me about yourself.
Are you joking with me? People don't usually come to see me for conversation.
I have no interest in your work. I am, however, curious as to what led you into this career.
Short story. The war, exile, and England. This country is not especially welcoming. I've been refused many jobs because of where I am from. I had few options left.
I'm sure you could have found another job, perhaps less lucrative. Maybe you should try again.
And when exactly was the last time you looked for a job? Or worried about the rent, or what, or when you were going to eat?
Goodbye, miss. Take care of yourself as best you can.
The wars of men should not be your main concern. The disease upon us is not an accident of nature, but the punishment of a divine will.
Forgive my interruption.
Do not apologize, my son. Father Tobias Whitaker is always happy to teach mortals about the incoming Armageddon.
I am Dr. Jonathan Reed, and I just have a few questions.
A scientist? You are much more lost than I thought, my son.
What do you mean when you say that I am more lost than you thought?
All scientists are entangled in a world of causes and consequences, and most of them can't see the plain truth.
Quite a judgmental opinion, if you ask me. But what do I know? Blinded by science as I am.
But you are seeking answers, aren't you? Answers about the Armageddon about to strike the city. Answers about the hidden truth.
Well, I suppose I can spare a few minutes listening to your so-called truth.
As a doctor, you must be aware of the decimating epidemic. But let me tell you that this so-called Spanish flu is just the beginning of the end.
What do you mean?
The beast is finally revealing itself, corrupting the flesh and the heart of men. With my own eyes I have seen them, those minions from the abyss.
Really? And what would be your answer to this biblical threat?
We must fight the disease before this legion outnumbers us. But not with scalpels and microscopes. No.
What is left then?
Cleansing fire.
Tell me, Tobias, what exactly is your plan concerning the cleansing of this city?
God will recognize his own. More than once this city has risen from the ashes, hardened and purified by the flames.
Purification by fire has proved useful, but where do you stop? Burn the clothes? The buildings? The corpses? Worse?
Your lack of faith is predictable. But my task is to convince rational minds like yours to see the light. This is God's will.
You're mad and dangerous. You're nothing but a soulless butcher. A small-time Torquemada. the Savonarola of Whitechapel.
My son, if you think salvation is a free gift, go listen to the lies of that pompous fool, Joseph.
Joseph, a fool?
Vicar Larrabee of St. Mary's Church. While he continues preaching his fraudulent redemption, more and more people die in the streets.
What do you mean when you say that I am more lost than you thought?
All scientists are entangled in a world of causes and consequences, and most of them can't see the plain truth.
Quite a judgmental opinion, if you ask me. But what do I know? Blinded by science as I am.
But you are seeking answers, aren't you? Answers about the Armageddon about to strike the city. Answers about the hidden truth.
I am. But the answers I seek are based on facts, not superstition. Do you know Nurse Dorothy Crane from the Pembroke Hospital? I'd like to know more about her.
I don't like the liberal ideas of nurses, but I especially abhor that Nurse Crane you mentioned.
So, you're not exactly a fan of Florence Nightingale's work. But nurses are essential for modern healthcare.
Nuns should be the only women allowed to take care of male patients. It's obvious only they have the necessary moral fiber.
Why do you hate Nurse Crane more than other nurses?
Before coming to London, she was a member of the communist resistance in her country. That's what happens when you let a woman get involved in politics.
Have you any friends? Any family left in these terrible times?
No. But I have a disciple I see as my son. He is so devoted. I sent him to preach the good word in the heart of this corrupted city.
You sent him on some preaching crusade during the epidemic.
As a true believer, Samuel will fear no evil while he walks through the valley of the shadow of death.
Where did you send him?
I sent Samuel to the Stonebridge Cemetery, where the pestilence and evil grows night after night.
I have heard enough for tonight. Goodbye. It's locked, all right.
What do you want? Leave me alone.
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. I'm looking for Nurse Dorothy Crane.
There is no Dorothy Crane here. Now goodbye.
I'm afraid this medical leaflet says the opposite, sir.
Really? Well, I'm afraid I'm going to close this door right now. Go bother someone else, Mr. Doctor.
To enter that house, I must discover who this man really is. Maybe I could start by observing what he's up to. There's nobody here. I cannot enter.
Step away, sir. Don't come closer! Steady, boys! Back in the ground! Look lively! It's on to us! Don't like that, do ya? He's dead!
Joe, please, I don't have your money.
Come on, Barrett, you know the game. You pay for peace of mind.
This could be the box Lewis thought he lost. A love letter from Joe Peterson's wife addressed to Barrett Lewis. Who should I give it to, I wonder?
mine, vermin!
Bloody monster!
He's mine! I'll take it! Which one? This one of them! Oh God! Oh! We have to stop it! It's a leech! Kill it!
I should never have taken up my father's business.
Action against malevolence and trickery. You are blinded by your own.
just disease, desertion, and despair. Morbidity can breathe its own beauty and grace. Whitechapel is not...
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. I would like to ask you a few questions.
Please be my guest. Although I may not be the best informant regarding this part of town, my words speak about that which the eyes cannot see.
Really? Are you an artist of some kind?
I'm a poet, sir. Richard Nethercott, at your service.
May I ask what you're doing at this hour of night, sir? Do you live here?
Not at all. I'm just enjoying the pleasure of a quiet walk. Though night talks are always preferable, if you ask me. Especially with strangers.
But are you not afraid of the epidemic?
Oh, why should I? I see some equity in the Spanish flu. No flesh should be saved, say the scriptures. Good or evil, rich or poor, all are equal in the eyes of the flu.
If you say so. But as a physician in a time of epidemic, I must caution you to avoid unnecessary exposure, sir.
Thank you, Doctor. But we both know the seeker of truth has to go boldly where the weak dare not.
Are you aware that your life could be in danger in this part of town?
But this is where I must be to feel the real beat of the city. I had to come, see it for myself, alone.
I understand your need for solitude, but it's not safe around here.
I don't care. I don't have many friends, Doctor, and my family despises me.
If some misfortune came upon you, who would be here to help you?
Well, you for a start, my dear Doctor.
What are your thoughts on the terrible situation in this city?
Terrible, you say? No. Of course, the death of so many innocents is a tragedy, but the scourge has not been all bad for the city. Oh, no, sir.
What are you talking about?
Do you remember London before the flu? Noisy, cacophonic, quiet nowhere to be found. And now, listen to this oddly peaceful silence.
Yes. The enjoyable silence of the grave. You have a unique perspective on the situation, I must admit.
Most people fail to understand my perspective. I don't blame them. But how could I call myself a poet if I veiled my feelings?
Tell me, Mr. Nethercott, why seek inspiration in Whitechapel?
The place is not beautiful per se, but how to explain it? Stirring and challenging.
Do you not think it a little morbid?
On the contrary, sir. Whitechapel is full of life, full of beauty. Just like my dear muse, the wonderful Camellia.
What can you tell me about Camellia?
Not much, and that's the beauty of it. She can't speak, you know. She's a locked mystery who exhales kindness and sweetness.
Perhaps you're just afraid to find out the truth about your muse.
One day, perhaps, I'll ask her to come with me. But will she still be my wild flower of Whitechapel if she moves uptown?
And have you ever tried to learn more about her? Where she lives? How she survives? Whom she may know?
Maybe I prefer she remains an enigma. Reality can be so dull, don't you think?
In what way, exactly?
The struggle by gaslight, The barren smiles and the arid hunger under the rain.
If you say so.
Such vibrant antagonism and vivid paradox. The stripped humanity raged across each street.
Vivid, of course, yes. And what about the poignant distress?
Oh yes, the poignant distress. You see what I mean, don't you? That's what I want to write about, and that's what Whitechapel is made of.
You don't really make a living from your scribblings, do you, Richard?
No, sir, I don't. I work so hard. I put all my time, my energy, my devotion into the precise carving of words.
Still, you don't seem to suffer from poverty.
With thanks to my parents, actually. I'm afraid I would not be able to live on my own without their help.
You seem embarrassed.
Someday I hope to proudly offer my first publication to my parents. Until that day, I'll remain the failure of a son they have to support.
I'll leave you alone, sir. Good evening, miss. I'm Dr. Reed. I'd like to ask you a few questions. I know what you're thinking. A tall stranger who meets a girl in the street at night. It reeks of the penny dreadfuls. But I mean you no harm, truly. I know you understand what I'm saying. Your silence has nothing to do with you being mute, does it? Tell me about Richard Nethercott. I understand he is quite fond of you, Camellia. Very well. Goodbye, then. Hello again, miss. Camellia, I know you work for Dorothy Crane. Please tell me about her secret dispensary. A stubborn and mute comrade. Nurse Crane and Darius Petrescu have been clever. Very well. Goodbye, then. It's locked.
I must reveal. Excuse me, sir. Are you familiar with this part of town? Name's Clayton Darby, reporter.
Sorry, I'm new to Whitechapel. But Perhaps you could help me since you're a journalist. My name is Jonathan Reed.
Dr. Reed, the famous surgeon. I'll gladly help if I'm able, sir.
Have you any idea of the danger you face in these streets at night?
I've had to run and hide more than once from frenzied mobs incensed by the fever. Do you think the flu is really responsible for this, Doctor?
That science is unable to explain the facts doesn't mean there is no rational explanation.
I confess, I share your point of view, Doctor.
Why are the newspapers keeping silent about the Spanish influenza? It's as though none of you care.
There's a war going on. People shouldn't be demoralized by news of deadly diseases.
It's a disgrace. People are left to die alone. No one is properly informed of the risks.
These are bad times indeed. So much for the glorious British Empire.
What is a journalist doing in this borough after sunset?
He goes where none of his colleagues would dare to go, to inform the country.
So you risk your life to reveal the truth. I saw many reporters do the same during the war.
Whitechapel is the crucible of so many untold stories and tragedies. I want people to know them.
That's quite honorable of you. But is the public interested?
Not at all, sir. And that's why I'm an independent journalist, hoping to sell some stories.
Christina Popper claims she sells her body because she can't find any other work. Do you believe her?
Of course I do. Her story is exactly what I want my readers to understand. We live in an intolerant and divided nation.
Do you think things will ever change, Mr. Darby?
I believe the situation can only improve. And now that women can vote, I'm convinced things will change.
Goodbye, Mr. Darby. Farewell.
Pay me a glass and I'll be gentle. Pay me a bottle and I'll...
I cannot enter. It's locked. Hello again, miss. Very well. Goodbye, then.
He's too fucking fast!
It's locked, all right.
Some piss-stinking alley reeking worse than a week-old lappy.
I have this thirst for blood. This is despicable. It's locked.
When science fails you, this elixir... As long as you have the money.
Nobody at home. I cannot enter.
afraid.